With more from Bay Hill, we're pleased to welcome in our colleagues, Lerner and Brandel Chamblee, who you can see on Golf Central beginning this evening, 5:30 Eastern time. Rich, let's start with you. Where have the Stars been so far this season?
All right, Georgia, a couple of ways I think we could look at this. It is very early in the season. We haven't even gotten to the first of the 5 big championships. That's next week at the Players. Secondly, and I think you'll hear this from a lot of players, it is harder than ever to separate in golf, to dominate. I've said for quite some time, when asked who's the new Tiger, it's parity. There's just so much depth, so many good players. But that said, there is a palpable sense out here that if you want to get paid like stars with all of these guaranteed monies, then play like a star. And it's undeniable that we're at a point where we want some box office. We could use a Sunday battle royale with Jordan Spieth and Scotty Scheffler and Ludwig Åberg and Ricky Fowler and keep going. Would do the game a world of good, I think.
Well, I would take an alternative view. I'd say the Stars have been omnipresent. When's the last time an amateur won a PGA Tour event? So the PGA Tour is not just in the business of showcasing stars. It's in the business of building those stars. Of course, I'm talking about Nick Dunlap at the Amex. And unless I miss something, the reigning U.S. Open won a signature event at Pebble Beach. Unless I miss something, one of the best players on the planet, Hideki Matsuyama, who, by the way, is not just a star in Japan, he's a superstar, won in L.A. And unless I miss something, Nick Taylor, who is not just a star, he's a superstar in Canada, who had probably the most memorable memorable event of the entire year last year, won in dramatic fashion at the Phoenix Open. So, yeah, Scotty Scheffler's still struggling with his putter. Justin Thomas hadn't quite put it all together. A few other players have struggled who we expect more of. But, again, unless I miss something, a fellow by the name of Mathieu Pavon, who came from the DP World Tour, who is not just a star but a superstar in France, managed to win at the Farmers. So these things don't always go to script. We want the best players to show up and always play the best every single week. There's ebb and flow in this game. There's been a little bit more ebb at the top than flow. But it wouldn't surprise me if Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy right about now started putting things in a higher gear.
They should. To their point, just 69 players in this field. There is a cut, but at most 19 players will be packing for the weekend. You would think, given that it is such a short field, the bigger names will emerge. But we know that Hollywood, guys, does not write the endings in this sport. If that were the case, Kurt Kitayama would not have won last year. Rory McIlroy would have gotten the job done, but he didn't.
Jordan Spieth also in the mix, as well as Scotty Scheffler last year at Bay Hill. Brandel, the big news so far this week is LIV officially withdrawing its bid for official World Golf Ranking points. Greg Norman says the OWGR is irrelevant. John Rahm says it needs to be revisited. Matt Fitzpatrick says he doesn't pay much attention to it. What is your view on the OWGR and its current viability in the sport?
Well, it's somewhat irrelevant if you went to LIV, an event or a tour that when you went there did not have the criteria that qualified the players for world ranking points. And they whined and moaned and hissed pretty much every single event that they weren't getting world ranking points, something they knew when they went to LIV. And they've not made any changes in their format to mitigate the areas where LIV doesn't qualify for world ranking points. So it was a bit of a nothing burger to me for Greg Norman saying that they've officially withdrawn from their request to get official world ranking points. As it relates to the veracity, if you want to go that way, with the world ranking points, I would say that it's never been more accurate because it's based on strokes gained total, which is allows the population of every single player in the world, once they play in any event where there's strokes gained players playing in that event, to sort of cross-populate across the globe. It's deeper math, more complicated math than certainly I understand, but I've talked to Mark Brody about it at great length. I've talked to others about it who understand the world rankings even better. And strokes gained data is a far more and less biased way to keep track of who the best players are in the world than the old format. So those players that are whining and complaining about the veracity or the validity of the official golf rankings, rather than whine or rather than complain, if they just took the time to study it just a little bit, reach out to Mark Brody, ask about these changes that they've made to the world ranking, and it become clear to them that the biases that existed before as it relates to the Japanese Tour or even the DP World Tour or the Sunshine Tour, those biases that were sort of baked into the cake are no longer longer there. So it's more accurate reflection of who the best players are in the world based upon some very complicated math.
I would just jump in and say I think there's another broadside by LIV in an attempt to diminish, depress, and maybe ultimately destroy the professional golf ecosystem as we've known it for so long. It also forces the hand, I think, of the major championships. I would agree. I mean, do these guys deserve to get world ranking points? Probably not, because they don't comply with the current criteria. Are they good enough? Are they some of the best players in the world? That's undeniable. Rahm and Koepka, and more recently Joaquin Niemann, Bryson DeChambeau, who won here just a few years ago. I still think undeniably they're some of the best players in the world, and they will show up at the major championships, which again could have the unintended consequence of diminishing your standard PGA Tour events.
Look, I'll give Joaquin Niemann some credit, realizing he wasn't going to get the world ranking points necessary to keep his world rank where it needed to be to play in the major championships. He did what he needed to do, which was travel around, find the events that he could get in that offered world ranking points, and then he stepped up and played some good golf. So good for him, but whining about the fact that you're not getting world ranking points on a tour that never complied, to use your phrase, complied with the criteria necessary to get world ranking points is a bit childish.
Do you think we're headed toward a point where they will have sort of an order of merit and the majors will take the 5 leading money winners off the LIV Golf Tour?
I don't know. That's an interesting point. I've heard people proffer that up, but how about playing upon a tour that offers world ranking points or complying with the criteria so that we accurately know how good, in this case, Joaquin Niemann is playing? He's beating 10, 12 players on the LIV Tour. If you go down and you look at the list of the big divide and the dispersion between the top and the bottom of that board, and you think, well, who's really being competitive out there? And by the way, according to some criteria, if you look a little bit deeper, we're going to talk about this more this week and probably some next week in the Players Championship Live, from almost every single player on LIV, their games have diminished from a strokes gain data standpoint, from the data that people can divine out, because their statistics are a little bit, let's just say, anemic. Look, if they start playing on a tour, they change that offer world ranking points, and they change their criteria, we'd have a better understanding of just how good they are playing.
Fair enough. The first 2 majors, though, will have as defending champions 2 guys who are now with LIV Golf. John Rahm, the Masters, and Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship a year ago.
Rich, final one here, and Brandel, I mean, this would have been sacrilegious to think 20, 30 years ago. Like, what is the most grueling week all year in professional golf? We would have said U.S. Open, clearly. But what we've seen now with a gentler U.S. Open the last 5 years, and just how punishing the Arnold Palmer Invitational is this a close fight now?
Look, I think the sternest test in golf is right here at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. If you look at the average score that has won here over the last 5 years since they've decided to grow some rough, as I'm standing here, I'm looking at how thick this rough is. But again, if we look at this average score of what's won at the Arnold Palmer Invitational over the last 5 years, it's right around 280. In the famous words of Bob Drum to Arnold Palmer, 280 usually wins the U.S. Open. Well, not anymore. It's not winning the U.S. Opens. They're down around, well, 6.5 shots difference. And I'm not sure score is everything, but I do think that testing players in every single aspect of the game. A lot of people look at the drive that Wyndham Clark hit on the final hole of the U.S. Open. I'm not disparaging. Wyndham Clark played great golf, clutch golf all the way down the stretch. Who will forget the 3-wood that he hit into the 14th hole in the final round, or the up and down at the 17th? But the really wide fairways, the idea of graduated rough is, well, it's not your father's or grandfather's U.S. Open. If you come to the Arnold Palmer Invitational and you get out of the fairway, you pay the price for it. That's intimidating mentally, to stand on the tee and know you're going to pay the price for it. So I think the sternest test in golf, the one that requires players to hit it long and straight and be precise coming into the greens, is right here at the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
Wind, water, rough, typically firm, fast greens can knock the best players, not just off balance, but can knock them out of a tournament. But a year ago, Kurt Kitayama, if you remember, guys, made a triple bogey, hit an OB at the 9th hole, but then dug in and made a clutch 17-footer for birdie, finished it with a par in the 72nd hole to come away with an enormous win.